What does a world champion, the only man who looked Lewis Hamilton in the eye in the same garage and came out victorious, see when he looks at today's Ferrari? The answer is a diagnosis. A diagnosis so brutal, so precise, and so devastating that it exposes the true disease that has been consuming Maranello for decades. Nico Rosberg, the 2016 champion, has broken his silence. And his words, echoed by La Gazzetta dello Sport, aren't just an opinion. They are the testimony of an insider who knows the Mercedes winning machine like no one else, and who now, looking from the outside, points to the cultural cancer that prevents Ferrari from becoming champions. And at the center of it all is a Lewis Hamilton who, according to Rosberg, is completely lost in the political labyrinth he has never had to face before. Hey everyone, welcome back to F1 Fanatics. I'm Matt Coleman, and if you're a true fan of the sport and want to stay on top of everything happening in Formula One, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our analysis and news. Get ready, because today's video is a masterclass in management, politics, and culture in Formula One, guided by one of the most analytical minds in the paddock. We're going to do a surgical analysis based on Nico Rosberg's statements to dissect why, according to him, Ferrari is a political labyrinth, why Mercedes is a machine of efficiency, and why Lewis Hamilton traded one for the other and may now be living with the consequences of his choice in the harshest way possible. Before we dive into the criticism, we need to establish the critic's credibility. Nico Rosberg isn't a mere commentator. He was the protagonist of one of the most intense and politically charged rivalries in modern F1 history. Inside Mercedes, he waged a psychological and technical war against Lewis Hamilton. He understands, firsthand, what it takes to operate at the highest level of pressure, where every management detail and every power play can decide a championship. It is with this authority that he looks at Ferrari and makes his diagnosis. His analysis begins with a sentence that sums up decades of frustration in Maranello. At Ferrari, too many people decide. What does this really mean? Let's paint the picture. Imagine a critical decision, approving a new floor. In a team like Mercedes, the path is clear. The aerodynamicists present the data, the technical director, James Allison, evaluates it, and with Toto Wolff's approval, the decision is made and executed in a matter of days. The chain of command is vertical, fast, and clear. Now, imagine it at Ferrari, according to Rosberg's view. The same decision needs to go through a committee. The head of aerodynamics has one opinion, the head of chassis performance has another. The sporting director has his considerations, each with their own fiefdom, their own veto power, and, most dangerously, their own political agenda to protect themselves if the upgrade fails. A decision that should be purely technical turns into a political negotiation. The process, which should take days, takes weeks, maybe months. The responsibility which should belong to one individual is diluted among everyone, and when the results don't come, the most practiced sport in Maranello begins, the witch hunt. It is into this environment that Lewis Hamilton, a product of the opposite system, has landed, and this is the center of the cultural shock he is experiencing. At Mercedes, he was part of a machine of relentless efficiency, a culture where data reigns supreme and where problems are solved with blameless postmortems. In other words, when something went wrong, the question wasn't who made the mistake, but what in our process allowed this mistake to happen. It was a culture of collective responsibility focused on continuous improvement. At Ferrari, the culture is driven by passion, history, and, inevitably, politics. It's an environment where relationships and internal alliances often speak louder than the wind tunnel data. And according to Rosberg's analysis, this is where Lewis Hamilton is lost. When Lewis identifies a problem with the car, who does he call? Who is the true owner of the final decision? If he talks to his engineer, that engineer answers to a boss, who answers to a committee, which perhaps answers to Vasseur. His feedback, which at Mercedes was a direct command for action, at Ferrari risks getting lost in a sea of bureaucracy. That's why his public statements have become his main weapon. When he says, "I don't know why we don't bring updates," he's not just informing the press, He's trying to use external pressure to force internal action that he, the greatest champion in history, cannot achieve through normal channels. It's a cry of frustration from a genius who finds himself paralyzed by the system around him. This chaotic structure fuels the vicious cycle that has haunted Ferrari for years, the culture of blame. Recent history is proof. Maurizio Arrivabene, Marco Mattiacci, Stefano Domenicali, Mattia Binotto, all, at some point, were designated as the guilty party for the lack of titles and were sacrificed to appease the fury of the Tifosi nation. But the underlying problem, the management structure, remained intact. When Mercedes catastrophically got the car concept wrong in 2022, did they fire James Allison? No, they promoted him back to the front line. They admitted the mistake, protected their people, and worked methodically to correct themselves. It's the fundamental difference between a culture of responsibility and a culture of blame. And where does Fred Vassar fit into all this? This is his great dilemma. He was hired to be the antidote, to bring the logic and pragmatism that were missing. But it seems he is being swallowed by the culture he was supposed to fight. His press conferences, where he refuses to give technical details and attacks the media, are a reflection of this. He may be trying to protect his team, but in doing so, he is, ironically, acting like the leaders of the past, creating a wall and fueling distrust. He is becoming part of the problem he came to solve. The question is he doing this by choice to survive politically, or because the system is simply stronger than him? Nico Rosberg's diagnosis is so powerful because it goes beyond the front wing and the floor. It targets the heart of the organization. Ferrari's 2025 crisis will not be solved with a magic upgrade in Austria or Silverstone. It requires a cultural revolution. As long as Ferrari is a place where too many people decide, it will continue to be a place where no one consistently wins championships. It's a system that has frustrated geniuses like Alonso and Vettel, and now it threatens to do the same to the most talented driving pairing on the grid, Leclerc and Hamilton. Rosberg's analysis leaves us with a dark and uncomfortable question. Is Ferrari, as an institution, simply incurable? Can a single man, whether a brilliant driver like Hamilton or an experienced manager like Vassar, really change a culture so deeply enrooted in decades of politics, passion, and tradition? I really want to know your opinion. Do you agree with Rosberg's diagnosis? Do you think Ferrari's problem is more political and cultural than technical? Leave your analysis in the comments below. Let's deepen this debate. And if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. I'm Matt Coleman, and this is F1 Fanatics. See you next time.